What is going on, guys? Welcome back. Today we are busting into the RS2 for the very first time. We're going to go out and shoot the FRS in just a little bit. Now this is going to be my first impressions of this gimbal. This isn't going to be a super technical video per se, and I'm going to link down in the description a guy who is doing extensive videos on this gimbal, and I found a lot of benefit from setting up the gimbal initially from his videos. So if you're looking for super detailed stuff, go ahead, shoot down to the description. But without further ado, let's get into some of the really cool parts about this gimbal and what I'm already enjoying about it right off the bat before we've even stepped outside with it. First things first, this thing, for what it is very compact and lightweight. This all breaks down into this little box here, which pretty small in my opinion. So that's pretty sick. Travel size is definitely very small. This actually breaks down to a smaller package than my Weebill Lab, which really doesn't make sense in any way. I will say it is overall heavier, but the camera I'm balancing is definitely a lot heavier. The next part that really makes me happy is having the locks just like the Weebill had. It's very easy to balance everything you need to. It's not balancing now because I have a lens cap on, but trust me, so easy to balance with these locks. They're very high quality too, I will say. Now the last part, which really excites me because I am coming from the Zhiyun and having a horrible experience with phone apps, is having every possible option I could ever want accessible on the back screen here, which is a touchscreen LCD. I've just had plenty of occasions at events where my phone is not the same battery as all the other batteries I'm shooting with. It's not always a perfect situation to be using your phone along with your gimbal. If it runs out, you know, you're just adding into time. But I will say the setup time on this thing is extremely minimal. And one of the best parts, in my opinion, is once you have gotten it balanced to where you think it should be, you can go ahead, turn it on, and the system is gonna essentially check it for you. So it's gonna have a light here that's gonna be either red, orange, or green for how well you did balancing it. And I actually did a great job, so it's green. So I feel really good about that. So that's always dope to be able to double check things like that. There's also a calibration mode in here, which I don't think I've even done yet, but let's go ahead and do that. Oh wow, it's okay. All right. It's making a lot of weird noises. I've never had a, Jesus. So we're good. At this point, we are all set to shoot. This makes me very excited considering this is a beast of a lens. And I'm already loving it. This is literally the first time I've done this. Oh my God. All right, guys, so I think I'm done with all my little trial tests here and we're ready to go outside and shoot with it for the first time. I hope you enjoy the little edit, and then afterwards we're gonna close the video with our notes on how well it did or how well it didn't do.
This is purple, isn't it? No, it happens to be black. You see purple? Yes.
The RS2, I believe, passed all my tests with flying colors as if they were to a really high standard at all. They really weren't, but regardless, I was super impressed with this gimbal and how it performed, even though I was kind of moving around recklessly at some points. When I played back the footage, it actually looked pretty decent. So I was pretty happy with it, that it kind of made up for some of my mistakes. But on the same token, I know that these things will clean up over time as I learn to use it more and more, and what it can and can't do, how fast I can and can't go. One thing I didn't mention is I did get the small rig top handle for it. I think this turned out really, really well. It's extremely sturdy, felt really, really great. And then I was able to use the tripod leg kind of as an extra arm, a little extension. I've always ran the Weebill that way. Love running this gimbal that way. And honestly, it helps a lot with the weight. So with that said, I'm actually very happy that I did get the RS2, because the only other option for balancing a setup like this probably would have been the Zhiyun Crane 3, which is even bigger and heavier than this is. So very, very happy that I went with a run and gun setup. So I will say I did have little nitpicks here and there with the gimbal initially as I started using it, but then with time, all those little problems I had with it kind of went away as I figured out how it's done on this system as opposed to the system I was on before. The lock is the trigger, which is different than the Weebill Lab. On the Weebill Lab, that's a pan, tilt, follow. Essentially, you can just point it wherever. I really do like that on the trigger. I don't know if we'll be able to program that or something in the future. That'd be cool. But it does program the lock mode, which just lets you keep the camera exactly where it should be and move either side to side or back and forth. And it's still very, very useful. So I think the qualms that I do have with it are purely time issues. I'm just gonna have to get used to it. But overall, I'm extremely happy with it. And it's the first time that I've balanced footage on the 24-70. So that makes me so happy. And even playing it back on here, I was just stoked, because I'm like, man, that's a cool looking 35mm shot, which I've never been able to have before. One last thing that I thought was really, really cool with this gimbal, and people who follow me on Instagram are gonna know, especially, that I'm gonna exploit the living shit out of this. There is a portrait mode on this gimbal. It flips the camera into portrait orientation and allows you to film with all your normal gimbal goodness, but in portrait orientation. So Instagram videos especially, that's the way you would want to shoot it essentially. And it kind of opens the door for me to try out different videos specifically for Instagram, which is definitely a little different. I've never thought about that until now, until I used it today. And that's the shot you just saw. I think it's pretty cool, and we'll see what we can do with it in the future. So that's gonna be it, guys. That is the end of the video. That is all I have for breaking into this gimbal. I'm really happy I did it. This isn't the kind of thing I wanna do at an event for the first time. I highly encourage you guys to do it if you do get gear for the first time you're not worried about. Shoot your car. My car is not the most interesting car in the world. The drift cars I shoot are like way beyond mine for sure. Mine's like a Camry in comparison, but it's worth the practice always. It might seem mundane, it might seem boring. You might have done it like 1,000 times, but it's always helpful, especially if you have a car that's hard to shoot, like color-wise. So that's it, guys. I will catch you on the next one. Peace out. Later. Bye-bye.